Independent Power Producers Association of India, IPPAI, held its 13th Regulators and Policymakers Retreat between 23rd and 26th of August 2012 at the luxurious Hotel Grand Hyatt in the alluring state of Goa. Over the years, this event has become a must-attend for policymakers and regulators, not just from the countries of the Indian subcontinent, that is Pakistan, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and India, but also from countries in the West like United Kingdom and the USA.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you here to the Regulators and Policymakers Retreat. This response to the retreat has completely overwhelmed me in terms of the number of people, the quality of people, and the quality of the debates that we are anticipating.
This year saw more than 175 people, including very important delegates like Dr. Mukul Sangma, Energy Secretaries of the states of Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh, and delegates from Pakistan, Bangladesh and Bhutan.
I think it's a fantastic venture that IPPAI has done. It's conglomerated interested parties, be it regulators, policymakers or the power producers themselves, to talk about the issues related to the power and electricity sector in India and try and come up with a resolution for them.
We've also had broader discussions on the kind of India that we would like to build.
We've also had participation not just from the power sector, but from various other sectors, including airport infrastructure, including ports, oil and gas. We were experts speak on all forms of infrastructure and the security of the infrastructure.
The 4-day retreat saw 24 sessions with more than 100 speakers, comprising producers, policymakers and experts from various fields. They too started with the first session of the retreat. The subject for discussion was the operationalization of open access.
Last year there was a notification by the Ministry of Power that any consumer who consumes more than 1 megawatt of power can become an open access consumer. Now this has raised a number of questions, Will it make the DISCOMs weaker? Will it make the consumers happy, etc., etc.?
The panel comprised of Dr. Pramod Deo, Mr. Ajoy Mehta, Mr. V.P. Raja, Dr. P.K. Mishra, Mr. Ashok Sethi, Mr. Gopal Saxena and Mr. Jayant Deo. The issues raised were how do you create a market for open access? The legal difficulties and operational difficulties for making open access operational were also discussed. Another session focused on competitive bidding.
Competitive bidding puts pressure and makes people cost effective right from the time of planning power projects.
The panel comprised of Mr. V.P. Raja, Mr. Suresh Prabhu, Mr. R.R. Mehta and Mr. Shubhranshu Patnaik. They discussed the legal issues related to determining tariffs. Should all future biddings in procurements be only through competitive bidding? Another important subject that was discussed by a selection of international delegates was transnational trade of electricity.
What is good about this is it's not, although it is an Indian association, but they bring in the whole regional flavor to it. We see the common issues, the commonalities of the problems that we are facing as a region, and the commonality of the solutions that we are all trying to do the same things.
Mr. Sandrup K. Thinley, Mr. Muhammad Abul Kalam Azad, Mr. Shah Jahan Mirza were on the panel, which was chaired by Mr. Harry Dhaul. What exactly is the role private sector can play? For transnational trade of electricity between countries, there is a need of intergovernmental agreement and infrastructure between the two countries. Dispute regulation is also another challenge. Another very popular session was the elephant in the marketplace, where Mr. Harry Dhaul, Mr. Dinesh Trivedi and Mr. Sohail Seth talked of how economic development leads to corruption and imperfect markets. A monopoly is like a big elephant sitting in the market. capitalist structure doesn't work because of corruption.
The raw material is here, the market is here. Let's make the difference, and I'm absolutely certain in coming days, people are not going to take this lying down, and I see a very bright and prosperous India.
The 4-day retreat was packed. There were brainstorming discussions during the day and parties by night. The parties allowed the policymakers, regulators and industry people to interact in a relaxed and informal setting. In 2012, IPPAI became the first organization to institute awards to recognize excellence in producing power.
Let us now meet our eminent jury. They are 5 of India's biggest names in the power sector who have taken out time from their busy schedule to recognize and award meritorious achievement in the Indian power sector.
On behalf of IPPAI, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Power Awards presentation ceremony this evening. There are about 11 categories of awards covering different fields of the power sector, from power generation, transmission and distribution, including all sources of power. And the award goes to
the best solar power producer, the best wind power producer, best power producer hydropower, fastest growing IPP thermal, best performing state, best energy services company, best power transmission company. Over the years, the retreat has attracted an eclectic mix of renowned and erudite delegates. Mr. S.Y. Qureshi, Mrs. Ela Bhatt, Mr. William Bryan, Mr. Pavan Verma, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, Mr. H.M. Nirurkar, Miss Karuna Nandi, Dr. Surjit Bhalla, Mr. Digambar Kamath, Mr. Jayant Kavle, Justice A.M. Ahmadi, Mr. Subir Gokarn, Mr. Maruf Raza, Major General Ashok Mehta, Mr. Dhamita Kumara Singhe, Professor Bibek Debroy, Mr. Mark Tully, Dr. Devdutt Patnaik, Mr. B.C. Khadao, Mr. Patrick Mercer.
IPPAI is the Independent Power Producers Association, and it came in the early 90s. That's the time when idea was to invite private sector to invest in power generation.
IPPAI acts as a facilitator between the power producers and the decision-making bodies, government organizations.
Some years ago, we ran a special conference on taxation in the power sector. That was about 5-6 odd years ago. And I think these are things that IPPAI can do and does well.
A private sector has gone up from, in the last 5 years, from 5%, it has gone up to now 27%. And in the last 5 years, you will find that when 55,000 megawatt generation capacity was added, 42% came from the private producers. So the private producers have started playing an important role.
The Regulators and Policymakers Retreat attracts the best minds in the field and has become an important forum for vibrant discussions to aid policy making. We do hope to see you in the next edition of the retreat. For details, please visit our website www.ippairetreat.com. IPPAI. Examine, engage, empower.